I'm getting old now, just coming into middle age. That rock, that used to be my home, has by now made around 150 orbits of the sun, since I was naturally born on it. I remember a time when I lived on that rock called Earth. I was in my 4th octade, around the age of 26, and I was with a girl. I could experience all 12 chemicals for her, but she could only experience 11 for me, and so this made us soul-mate standards, and not soul-mate primes. And so, the governing body at that time, suggested that she and I part ways, for the good of us all, as they would put it. And so we did. But, before this government-sanctioned breakup, she and I passed 4 years together, and every year, we would visit the island of Orsa, which, many hundreds of years before our visits, had been known as Ibiza, spelt Ibiza, whose ancient inhabitants had spoken a language known as Spanish. And she and I would actually go to this island called Orsa, physically, on an air warper, because we could afford to, as I was a wealthy man back then. We were actual tourists, not virtual tourists like some others would be. And you would see them walking around, the virtual tourists, in their tourist avatars. At the time, I used to think it was so odd to have 2 sets of tourists so close to each other geographically, but so far apart physically. Actual tourists could go anywhere on the island, but virtual tourists had to pay extra to visit certain places. Anyway, there was this club on the island called Passion, which, many centuries before, had been known as Pat Cha. It was a popular club, and it was open only to actual tourists, so she and I would go. We would dance and consume alcohol, and pretend that the world was a nice place, and that the chips in the backs of our necks weren't really there at all. And then that song would play. It was called Keepers, and it was a favorite for most people, but more particularly for me and her. This is because it was the song that she and I had both listened to the first time we danced together. And yet now, I'm on this rock in outer space, all by myself. If only she and I could have stayed together, but sadly, of all the chemicals that she could experience for me, there was one chemical that she couldn't, and that was confusion.